Part 3 Ending of The Fool, other parts down below. We agreed to meet at IHOP. Over the weekend, I'd mulled over things, devising 2 different strategies, one with April, one without. Much depended on our conversation today and another when I returned. To my surprise, both Beth and April arrived. They spotted me and approached my table. They both looked stunning, but April seemed unusually pale and tense. She hesitated to hug me, then faltered in her words. I stepped forward and embraced her, feeling a sense of relief rather than discomfort. It was a reassuring touch. I gave Beth a questioning glance. Beth drove because I was too anxious. Bill, I'll sit away, out of earshot, so you two can talk, Beth explained, maintaining neutrality. Thanks, Beth. Having you nearby is comforting, as you're almost like family. Plus, it's good to have someone level-headed around if things get intense, I said. I'm okay with that, Bill. It feels better knowing Beth can hear us, April added softly. Great, I replied. Let's order and ask the waitress for extra drinks to minimize interruptions. My tone was light and friendly. After agreeing, we placed our orders. The waitress seemed very helpful, especially after I tipped her generously before our meal arrived. So, how have you been, April? I inquired, admittedly not the most elegant conversation starter. I've been struggling, Bill, she confessed. Your promise of this talk kept me going. I nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. We're both in pain. I need honest answers from you. Any deceit ends this conversation and our relationship. Can you be truthful, even if it's hard? I asked. April met my gaze, placing her hands on the table. Let's do this, she said determinedly. I gently took her hands in mine. The first few questions will be simple yes or no. That's all I need for now, I explained. First, do you love me? I asked. Without hesitation, she exclaimed, yes, Bill, I do. But I gently squeezed her hand to remind her to keep it brief. Thank you. Now, have you been faithful since our engagement? I inquired. Her response was emphatic. Absolutely not. Her loud response drew a few glances from nearby tables. Are you managing your drinking well? Was my next question. She answered with a tearful no. Would you continue to seek help for your drinking if we stay together, despite any opposition? I asked. Yes, she replied firmly. I gave her hands a reassuring squeeze. That's all for the yes or no questions. Let's eat, and then we'll tackle the more challenging ones. I offered a small smile, which she returned faintly. We ate in contemplative silence. Her responses were mostly as I expected. For now, I decided to trust her, planning to verify her answers discreetly later. Finishing our meal, I glanced at Beth, trying to read her expression. She managed to hide her thoughts well, but a small smile and nod from her gave me some reassurance. Ready for the next set of questions. They're a bit more difficult, but I need honest answers, I said, bracing myself. Bill, I genuinely don't remember anything about that night. My last clear memory is entering the elevator. I can't recall anything from around 10 p.m. until waking up later, she confessed. But you mentioned being with him. You must recall something, I pressed, a bit more sternly. Bill, I woke up and found someone asleep beside me. It was clear what had happened, but I have no memory of it, she murmured quietly. Do you believe it was non-consensual? I asked as gently as possible. Given my state, yes, I couldn't have consented. But legally, it would be challenging, especially with his family's influence, she responded. She then added with determination, if you think I should, I'll report it, despite the personal cost. Just let me know. I pondered over her words. I had my own plans for the individual involved. I need to know who it was. His name, I asked, my voice firm and cold. Bill, please be careful. I need you. But it was Xavier Stone from Corrugated Solutions in Chicago, she said, worriedly. I decided to leave the topic of that night there, feeling I had enough to consider our future. All right, let's move on to other questions, I said, avoiding mentioning the name she'd given. Did I do something to cause this? Did you start drinking again to hurt me? Knowing how I feel about alcohol, why did you think it was okay to drink? She replied with remorse, no, Bill, it wasn't about you. I was upset with myself. I should have been there for you. And the drinking. It was peer pressure, which I know sounds weak. They teased me, and I caved. It started with one drink, and then things got blurry. I took a moment before my final question. What are you willing to do to make this work? The past months have been tough for me, and I can't go back to that. Think about what you really want and what you're prepared to do, and let's talk when I'm back from Belize. At the mention of Belize, both Beth and April looked up sharply. Why are you going to Belize, Bill? April asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I've been assigned to a project there. It's behind schedule, and they need me to help expedite things. It wasn't my usual assignment, but my boss thought it would be good for both the company and for me to have a change of scenery. I'll be away for 6 weeks, then we'll talk again. I hope you're okay with this. If not, we can discuss other options, including divorce, I explained as gently as I could. The word divorce visibly unsettled April. No, Bill, please, she pleaded. Is there any chance I could join you there? Or perhaps Beth could go. Beth looked surprised at her suggestion. April, I need to be clear. This trip isn't about getting back at anyone. I'll remain committed to our marriage. This is a chance for me to reflect on what I want. I've asked you to think about what you're willing to do to make this work. I'll be doing the same. And I expect fidelity from you while I'm gone. If there's any slip-up, that will be it for us, I said firmly. I then hesitated before adding, there's something else. Our 3-year anniversary is this Thursday. I'd like to celebrate it with you, take you out for dinner. If it's too awkward, but she cut me off. I'll be ready. Just tell me the time and place so I can dress accordingly, she said, reminding me of the April I once knew. I've booked a table at LeBlanc for 7. I'll come by the house at 6 to get ready, if that's all right, I said. Of course, Bill. So, you're not coming home today? She inquired. No, I won't be staying at home until we sort this out. I'll be at the Holiday Inn on Deckwinder. We'll see what happens when I return, I replied. I noticed a spark in her eyes when I inadvertently called her babe. I hadn't meant to use a term of affection. Standing up, I concluded, I need to prepare for my trip. I'll see you on Thursday. As I prepared to leave, April suddenly stood up and embraced me tightly, her hug so firm I found it hard to breathe. I returned the embrace and instinctively kissed the top of her head, noticing Beth's eyes welling up with tears. I love you so much, Bill, she whispered into my chest. I regret hurting you. In that moment, I responded, I love you too, April. I really hope we can work through this. After a moment, we let go, and April hurried towards the door, likely eager to reach her car before becoming too emotional. Beth came forward, giving me a warm hug and a peck on the cheek. Thank you, Bill. She needed that, Beth said, grabbing her purse and following her friend out. The following week was hectic. While working on the budget for the project, there was a knock at my hotel room door. Peering through the peephole, I saw Stephen Livingstone, April's father. Sighing, I opened the door. He entered with a stern look. Can I come in? He inquired. I left the door open and returned to my desk, not verbally responding. He cautiously entered, surveying the room before sitting on the edge of the bed. We exchanged silent stares for a moment before he finally spoke up. I'll get straight to the point. April is miserable and wants you back. You know the prenup conditions. Financially, it's in your best interest to reconcile. She's worried about your trip, but understands your work commitments. I'm offering you a better position and salary at Livingstone, flexible hours too. We need a new manager for our inventory system overhaul. You can start Monday or take some time off, maybe go somewhere nice with April. What do you say? My response was calm but firm. No, thank you. You seemed taken aback. What did you say to me? He asked, his tone hardening. I repeated, just as calmly, I said no, thank you. His frustration was palpable, but I cut him off before he could continue. Steve, let me be clear. If I thought April sent you, I'd have a few choice words for both of you. But I know April better. Your money, it means nothing to me, and I've shown that repeatedly. I can't figure out if you undermine my relationship with your daughter because of your own controlling nature, or if it's just about maintaining the Livingstone image. You seem oblivious to what April endures, more concerned about your family's reputation. Right now, that image isn't flattering. Your great parenting has contributed to this situation. Ever considered supporting us a bit? Advising April to quit AA was a terrible move. It was helping her, and discouraging her from attending events with her husband. That didn't help her image or our marriage. So, Steve, my answer is clear, stay out of it. If April and I reconcile, it'd be best if you kept your distance. She's had enough of your interference. And now, I think it's time for you to leave. I took a deep breath and returned to my budget work. He lingered for a while before finally exiting. Shortly after, I received a text from April apologizing for her father's actions and assuring me she had no part in it. I texted back, acknowledging her father's intentions but expressing my decision to distance myself from him. I looked forward to our Thursday meeting. The next day brought a more welcome visitor, my old army buddy Adam Jonesy Jones. When I opened the door, he just grinned, holding a 2-liter of Verner's and a pint of Jack Daniels. Without a word, he made himself at home, grabbing the ice bucket and heading out to fill it. Jonesy was a unique character, always slightly offbeat but dependable. We had served together, and during one intense firefight, I had provided cover for him. As an IT specialist, I wasn't typically on the front lines, but that day I felt like I really proved myself. Beyond combat, I was valued for helping the guys stay connected with their loved ones back home. He returned from the ice machine with a shot of whiskey for himself and a glass of Verner's for me. We raised our glasses in a toast. To those we lost. May we meet in Valhalla, we said solemnly. After taking a sip, Jonesy gave me a probing look. All right, Thump, out with it. Beth Peters called me, said you could use a friend and told me where to find you. What's the situation? You reconciling or moving on? He inquired. I was taken aback. Did Beth fill you in on everything? No, she just mentioned you needed company. Seeing you in a hotel, I guess things were rough. I assumed there was infidelity, and it wasn't on your end, he deduced. I might have been the one who strayed, I countered. He chuckled. Thump, you're the last guy who would. You're so loyal, you'd turn down the most tempting offer just talking about your wife. I'm not that perfect, I replied, somewhat defensively. Everyone knows you're the Boy Scout of our group, and I bet you're sticking to soda tonight to support her, right? He observed, nodding at my drink. I glanced at my Verner's, conceding his point silently. Jonesy set his cup down and nudged me towards the door. The rest are waiting. You're driving. On the way to the Red Horse Saloon, Jonesy sang along with the radio, drowning out any further conversation. I eventually joined in, belting out Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me as we arrived. Stepping into the bar, I was surprised to see most of my old unit there. Beth was chatting with John Watson Holmes, and I even spotted Ralph and Bruce from work among the crowd. It felt like a reunion with my old crew at the bar. These 10 folks were practically my only friends in the entire world. I noticed Oki was missing and wondered whether to be relieved or disappointed. The only person who could have made the evening perfect was April. Beth greeted me warmly as I walked in, with a friendly hug. April wanted you to be with your friends tonight. She thinks I organized this. Just don't forget your date with her tomorrow, okay? It means a lot to her, she said with a knowing smile before leaving. I wasn't the only one watching her leave. Turning to the group, I couldn't hide my excitement. Great to see you all. First round's on me, I announced. The night was full of laughter and camaraderie. Everyone was eager to hear my story, so I waited until everyone was around to share it. Surprisingly, rather than anger, most of my friends praised her for her honesty. Ronnie James Dion, who was already enjoying his drinks quite a bit, put it simply, we all make mistakes, thump. She faced hers. The rest of the evening was spent catching up and joking around. Quite a few friends inquired about Beth, hinting that she might have feelings for me. It was a bit awkward since I had strong feelings for Beth, but my commitment was to April. Another topic that came up was the guy who had wronged me. Accidentally, I let his name slip, and Ralph and Bruce figured out his location in no time. Turns out, they were skilled in some questionable internet activities. I kept my cool, pondering if their skills could somehow be used ethically for my company. James Brick Hamilton pulled me aside later. Hey Thump, I heard you're going away for 6 weeks. This Xavier guy, he's going to have a tough time soon, he said with a sly grin. I wanted to make sure things wouldn't go too far. Rick, just make sure he's around to hear my side of the story when I get back, I said. Rick laughed and gestured with a finger to his nose, understanding my point. I've always thought of you as the silent but strong type. I've seen enough in my time to know it's the quiet ones who are often the most capable, he said with a bit of a slur. I couldn't help but feel a deep affection for these guys. In appreciation, I ended up covering their bar tab, which left me nearly $700 lighter. That night, my hotel room turned into a makeshift camp for 3 of my ex-army buddies. The next morning, I nudged them all to leave and expressed my gratitude for their company. Jonesy was the last to go. He had one more thing to add. Bill, I understand people. Your wife, she's not the bad sort. He gave me a fist bump and left. I realized then he'd never actually called April by her name. The anniversary dinner on Thursday was surprisingly low-key considering the potential for drama. I was prepared for April to look amazing, but she was absolutely stunning. Beth later told me April had gone all out with professional hair and makeup, and even bought a new dress and shoes. I was in my best suit, which cost about $900, but next to her, I felt overshadowed. Our dinner conversation was light, more about enjoying the moment together. I knew I loved her and was already dreading my upcoming trip. When dinner ended, I walked her to the door, pulling her into a tight hug and giving her a gentle kiss. I love you, April, no matter what. Just remember that, I said. I love you too, Bill, she replied, holding me close. We stayed like that until her car arrived. She left with tears in her eyes, rushing to her car, and I was left there, feeling pretty downhearted. The journey to Belize was a revelation. While reviewing the project's budget and time cards, I discovered a strategy that could both improve efficiency and make me look like the good guy. Upon arrival, my first task was to propose a new work schedule to the team. Instead of the typical 5-day week, I suggested working 10 hours a day for 4 days, plus 4 hours on Friday. This would give them extended weekends. The team embraced the idea, and productivity soared. The longer workdays seemed to keep some of them away from nightlife, resulting in more focused work hours. They also enjoyed leaving early on Fridays to enjoy the beaches and jungles. Being actively involved with them on the ground, whether it was pulling cable or monitoring latency, helped us bond as a tight unit. When the project wrapped up under budget, I accidentally extended their stay in Belize by 2 days as a reward. The tropical atmosphere prevented me from dwelling on my troubles. I indulged in the local nightlife, dancing and socializing. I came close to getting romantically involved with someone, but I managed to hold back. I left Belize without having been intimately involved with anyone. Diving the Blue Hole was a highlight and a dream come true. This trip made me realize that I truly connected with my team members. I pondered over my fit in April's social circle and whether I could ever fully be a part of it. Trust issues and doubts about our relationship clouded my mind. I had hoped to clear my thoughts in Belize and return ready to reconcile with April. However, now I wasn't so sure. I even began to consider a future without her. As I flew back to Detroit, I faced a significant decision about our relationship and my life. I returned home 2 days ahead of schedule as there were a few things I needed to sort out. As soon as I got off the plane, I contacted April. Throughout my trip, I had been sending her brief messages and making occasional calls, just enough to let her know I was thinking of her. She answered immediately, and we agreed to meet and talk in the next couple of days, ending the call with mutual expressions of love. I had already scoped out a few furnished apartments for lease and decided on the first one I visited. It was important for me to have a place of my own for the upcoming 6 months. I managed to get the keys and move in my belongings, having arranged everything with the leasing agent beforehand. I then called Jamie to inform her that I would email the project report first thing in the morning. I gave her a brief overview, though she might not be thrilled about the overtime hours incurred. The fact that the project was under budget should appease her. Feeling like a bite to eat, I headed to the Red Horse Saloon for a burger and a beer, deciding to enjoy myself regardless of what might happen with April. While I was eating, a man named Steve Livingstone, carrying a satchel, sat down beside me. He ordered his meal and then, without any forewarning, handed me a folder. "I've dissolved the prenup, and 35% of the company is now solely in your name," he announced abruptly. I took my time chewing, trying to process this unexpected news. But I was in for another surprise as he slid another folder towards me. The trip to Belize opened my eyes in many. As I flew back to Detroit, I was faced with a monumental decision about our future. I made up my mind to confess the affair to her and assure her it was a one-time mistake. But when I arrived home, Jackie greeted me at the door in tears. I immediately assumed she knew and started apologizing, saying it wouldn't happen again. When she asked me to clarify, I realized I had inadvertently confessed. I explained the affair, only to learn that her tears were actually of joy because she was pregnant with April. Those following 9 months were agonizing. Jackie made it clear she was staying only for the baby. The daily pain in her eyes was heart-wrenching, but the thought of losing her was even worse. Eventually, we reconciled and found happiness together again, although occasionally she would still express doubts about my whereabouts. As the story continued, he shared how these feelings persisted until the end of Jackie's life. Her final words to him were ones of forgiveness and love, forever shadowed by his past mistake. After a pause and a sip of beer, he explained why he shared this story with me. He said it was me who needed to come to terms with everything. He expressed his belief that his daughter would do everything to make me happy. He declared his withdrawal from our lives, leaving April and me to make our own decisions, whether that meant selling the company or starting a family. He revealed his plans to commit to his own love life and left our future in our own hands. He finished his beer, paid the tab, and left, leaving me to ponder the sudden shift in my financial status and the weight of his story. I tried to focus not on the monetary aspect but on his decision to step back from our lives and the implications of his personal story. It raised questions about trust and whether I could overcome those issues going forward. This was the real dilemma I faced, far beyond the financial windfall. I met April again at IHOP, and Beth joined us. Seeing them both was always a pleasure. No matter what happened with April, I couldn't imagine ever resenting her. I had a hopeful feeling about our meeting. We greeted each other with a warm hug and sat down. April looked as stunning as ever. "Bill, what's your decision? Are we staying together or parting ways?" April inquired, getting straight to the point. I took a deep breath. "It's entirely your call, April," I said. "I've given a lot of thought to our relationship, its direction, and our problems. It all comes down to 3 key issues for me. First, the drinking. I'm not sure you should be anywhere near alcohol again. Second, the betrayal. It hurts knowing someone else was intimate with you, but I believe I can move past it with time and open communication. However, can you handle occasional moments of jealousy or distrust from me, even years from now? And finally, your priorities. Can you balance your commitment to Livingstone Steel with our relationship? I have plans to focus on you too, so it's not a one-sided effort. What do you think?" April responded earnestly, "I'm willing to attend AA or therapy indefinitely for my drinking issue. I understand if you need time to forgive my past mistakes, whether it takes 5, 10, or 15 years. And if it means keeping our relationship, I'm ready to sell my company shares and embark on new adventures together." Her response was in line with what I had anticipated, though I thought we might have ordered food first. Now was the moment to see if she was sincere. "I trust you, April. But let's try something. I want to see if you can balance attention to our relationship while managing your company. I'd like you to make an effort to win me over again," I said, offering a small smile. "Woo me?" she asked, looking puzzled, a slight frown appearing on her lovely face. "Yes, pursue me, take me out, show me you care," I explained. "I think it'll be enjoyable for us both and it'll prove if you're really committed. I'm not sure how I came up with this idea, but it feels important. And it can't be just about lavish gifts or physical affection. It has to be genuine quality time together. Does that make sense?" You both look at me as if I'm speaking another language. Indeed, they did. Beth looked utterly baffled, and April just seemed bewildered. I was being sincere. I longed to be courted, even if it seemed unconventional. I realized I had been so focused on pleasing April that I had neglected my own happiness. It crossed my mind that maybe I needed some counseling. However, this was a non-negotiable for me. April exchanged a knowing look with Beth, and then turned back to me with a playful glint in her eye. "So, there's a catch to the physical aspect of our relationship. she inquired, still maintaining that playful tone. Yes, but there's a condition. Moving forward, our physical relationship will symbolize a deeper commitment. I might be a bit possessive, but I feel strongly about this, I admitted, my tone becoming a bit stern. Beth, who had been quiet, suddenly chimed in with a mischievous question. What about if someone else were to join us? She inquired with a hint of mischief. I pondered for a moment before replying. If I'm okay with it, then there's no issue. I wasn't naive. I sensed where this might lead and was tentatively open to the idea. For now, though, my focus was on repairing things with April. So, what's your decision? I asked, feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. April locked her deep blue eyes with mine, her voice taking on a softer tone. Can we postpone any further commitment discussions until we're somewhere more private? Maybe not right here in the restaurant, she suggested. With that, Beth excused herself with a grin, and I took April to my place. We spent the afternoon and evening reconnecting, reaffirming our relationship in a way that was intense and passionate. The next morning, waking up to find her emotional, I was initially concerned, but she just held me close, indicating her contentment and desire to continue strengthening our bond. 4 months after April and I got back together, we faced a new challenge in our relationship. I found it difficult to be intimate with her in a gentle, loving way. I had no trouble with a more aggressive approach, but whenever I tried to slow things down, I struggled to maintain my physical response. Strangely, I didn't have this issue in other scenarios or with a change of pace in our encounters. We were attending counseling sessions, and when I brought this up, our counselor, Ron Wood, had some insights. Ron was approachable and straightforward, qualities I appreciated. He suggested that my method of dealing with problems was to suppress them and then channel that energy into action. In intimate moments with April, I was using that energy assertively. But during softer, more affectionate moments, there was no outlet for my pent-up emotion, leading to my physical difficulties. This resonated with me, especially as it highlighted my unresolved feelings about April's past infidelity. This issue led to an unusual situation. April, in an attempt to balance the scales, arranged a date for me with a high-end escort. I met with an attractive redhead but ultimately sent her home without any physical engagement. When I returned, April was distraught, and it took some time to reassure her that I hadn't been unfaithful and that she was the only one I wanted. Our breakthrough came unexpectedly. One night, returning from the bathroom, I overheard April in our bedroom. She was in a state of self-pleasure, whispering my name. Seeing her in that moment was incredibly arousing. We ended up sharing an intimate moment, each in our own way, yet together. This experience seemed to dissolve my previous issues, and from then on, our physical relationship improved significantly. Investing in the condo turned out to be an unnecessary expense. I had initially planned for it to be a place where April and I could have our dates, but within a month, I found myself living back at our home full-time. April really put effort into our dates. We enjoyed a scenic fall color tour in the Upper Peninsula, marveling at the stunning autumn scenery. She even took up scuba diving and fell in love with it, especially after our first dive in the Cayman Islands. We attended a few Pistons games, but she wasn't as enthusiastic about basketball as she was about baseball. However, hockey was a different story. She became an avid Red Wings fan, sometimes to an embarrassing extent at the games. While she did have to cancel a few dates due to work, the overall dynamic between us had changed for the better. She increasingly trusted her team to handle business matters, allowing us more time together. It took us about a year after my trip to Belize to truly feel like we were on solid ground again. She remained committed to her AA meetings, attending at least once a month. In a surprising turn, an old Army friend of mine, Rick, seemed to have taken matters into his own hands regarding Xavier Stone, the man April had been unfaithful with. Xavier ended up being mugged and hospitalized not long after I left for Belize. Rick sent me a cryptic text afterwards, implying his involvement. Then, when Xavier visited Detroit again, coincidentally when my Army friends were at my condo, he was mugged for a second time. Detroit's dangers seemed to have caught up with him. April either didn't connect the dots or chose not to bring it up, and I was secretly relieved. As we worked through our issues, April and I felt ready to start a family. She went to the clinic for a checkup, and when I returned home, I found both her and Beth in tears. Expecting joyous news about a pregnancy, I was completely unprepared for what April tearfully revealed to me. "Bill, I have cancer." As I stood gazing at my wife, the mother of our future children, a profound sense of warmth and contentment enveloped me, intertwined with an unbearable sadness and sense of loss. Our journey together hadn't always been smooth. There were times of sorrow and heartache, but the good times had far outweighed the bad. Watching her casket being lowered, my mind replayed the myriad events that had led to this moment. I reflected on the profound changes in my life since that fateful meeting with her on an April Fool's Day, years ago. The battles we had faced together, her struggle with alcohol, her journey to recovery, the challenges of infidelity, and her courageous fight against cancer, all these memories flooded through me, almost overwhelming in their intensity. Cancer, such a simple word, just 2 syllables, with a straightforward definition. Yet, the emotions it evokes are complex and deep. I stood there, holding my sobbing wife. Even in her most difficult moments, April had an indomitable spirit, a sense of invincibility. But now, in my arms, she seemed utterly broken. "What am I gonna do, Bill?" she cried. "First, remember we're in this together. It's what are we going to do? And second, let's calm down and talk about how you went from a fertility test to a cancer diagnosis in just a day," I replied gently. April looked up at me, tears in her eyes, and embraced me tightly. She explained that during her fertility checkup, the doctors had conducted an ultrasound and discovered multiple growths in her uterus. An MRI was scheduled for the following Friday to gather more information, but the doctors had cautioned her to prepare for the worst. Holding her close, I reassured her, stroking her hair, whispering that everything would be all right. Feeling another pair of arms encircle us, I knew Beth was with us in this ordeal. Gradually, April began to calm down, and we all moved to the kitchen table to discuss our next steps. "Here's what we'll do," I said, holding them both. "First, let's not panic. We'll get you more tests as soon as possible to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Second, remember you're young and otherwise healthy. And third, thankfully, we have the resources for the best possible healthcare. We caught this early, and we can beat this." We held each other, allowing the tension to ease, determined to face this challenge together. Over the next 2 weeks, we attended more than a dozen medical appointments. It appeared that April had significant tumors in her uterus, making natural childbirth unlikely. However, the fertility doctor believed her eggs were still viable. After much consideration, we decided April would undergo fertility treatments to harvest eggs for future possibilities. A week before her scheduled hysterectomy, April came to pick me up for lunch. She looked as stunning as ever, and I couldn't help but feel proud of her. As she approached, I sensed someone behind me. "Nice to see your wife again, Cuck." I mean Chuckles, I heard Brent's voice sneer from behind. My comment, "What a twist to the relationship. Do you think that this will change OP's view? What would you do?" I'm working on the final ending as you are watching this video. Hit that sub if you enjoyed this, and I will publish the ending as soon as I can.